Welcome. My name is Amy, and I will be your personal guide as together we explore strategies to improve your skills to make you a more effective leader. You've taken an important step in enhancing and expanding your ability to interact with others in a meaningful and impactful manner, and I want you to get everything you can out of this training. This training is designed so that you can take it at your own pace. Take your time, do the activities to ensure you will be able to put your new learning into practice. Learning alone will not make you successful. You must take action. It is only through the application of our knowledge that we can truly shine, and I know you can shine. We're in this journey together. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time with your questions or comments. I'm here for you. Now, before we get started, make sure you've printed off your training guide. This will help you capture all the key information you will need to put your learning into practice. I know, it may seem old school, but some of the latest research shows that writing out notes is the most effective way for adults to learn. So if you haven't printed out your guide yet, hit that pause button and go do that right now. All ready? Excellent. It's my pleasure to be your guide through this training. Let's begin. How to build your empathy. There are a lot of reports out there citing the importance of empathy in leadership. Empathy is frequently listed as one of the top skills companies are seeking in their senior or C-suite leaders. Is this all part of a trend for leaders to be nicer? What does empathy really mean? How is it used? And why should anyone care? These are the questions we will address in this training. Let's start with the basics. A lot of people tend to confuse sympathy and empathy and compassion. While they are all related, they are all different. Understanding these differences is important for leaders. Leaders need to be able to clarify which is needed in different scenarios. So here are some brief descriptions. Sympathy. Sympathy is having an awareness of the emotional situation and expressing a recognition of that awareness. Think of the typical sympathy card. It provides an acknowledgement of a loss. Empathy. Empathy takes sympathy one step further. Along with acknowledging the situation, it expresses an ability to see things from the other person's perspective and show that you understand how it is affecting them. Compassion. Compassion is the third stage. This is where you are aware, understand, and are motivated to take action. This is much more than sending a card or flowers. Compassion is about volunteering your time and assistance or becoming an advocate for the person. I'm not sure who said this, but I love this quote. True empathy requires that you step outside your own emotions to view things entirely from the perspective of the other person. Empathy in leadership. I hope this doesn't surprise you, but being a leader doesn't mean the world revolves around you. Being a leader means you need to help others reach their potential and excel at their work. Leaders know how to bring out the best in each individual employee or team member. They know how to adjust and adapt their approach based on how the team is feeling. This is what allows leaders to bring out the best in their team. Paying attention to the people around you matters. Leaders must be able to put themselves into the shoes of their employees in order to gauge the stress levels and morale. Then they need to adjust their own expectations to show that they are aware of the morale. And if they want to improve the situation, then they must get involved and create actions that will support their team members and help them function better. As Oprah Winfrey says, leadership is about empathy. It is about having the ability to relate to and connect with people for the purpose of inspiring and empowering their lives. Empathy has become a leadership buzzword because it incorporates awareness and understanding. It puts the leader in a position to know if action is needed or not. Depending upon the cause of the distress, the leader may or may not even be able to take any actions that can improve the situation. Sometimes all you can do is show that you see the things from another's perspective and that you understand what is taking place. That is why empathy gets the most attention. Strategies to build empathy. Empathetic leaders tend to have teams that are more engaged, more loyal, more creative, and generally happier. Empathy can be a learned behavior, and there are ways to help create an environment or culture of empathy within your team. Here's a few strategies to get you started. Get involved. You may have come up through the ranks and have a personal reference of what life is like for your team members. You know the tasks they're responsible for each day, and you may have a good idea of what it takes to perform those tasks. But how old is your perspective? Things change fast nowadays. When was the last time you spent the day working with your team members as they go through their day? A day in the trenches 2 years ago can be different from what it is today. And if your last time being involved in the daily grind was 5 or 10 years ago or even more, the task and processes could be vastly different from what you remember. Take the occasional day to refresh your memory and learn what things are really like at this moment in time. A note of warning though, when you do this, make sure you are there in a learning capacity and that your team understands this. You are not there to judge or micromanage. You can make process suggestions later on. The purpose of this exercise is to become aware of the emotional factors, including stress, that your team experiences daily. The highest form of knowledge is empathy. Bill Bullard. Open communication. It is incredibly difficult to know what is going on with your team if they don't feel safe and coming and talking to you. Leaders must establish a culture of communication where everyone is free to express their concerns without fear of retribution. This may include weekly touch-base times with each individual, regular town hall style gatherings, or even a suggestion box. It is critical that you establish yourself as a leader people can come to and air everything from grievances to innovation ideas. For grievances, you must set the tone for confidentiality and taking appropriate action. For innovation ideas, you must set the tone for openness to new ideas and appropriate recognition. Widen your perspective. Sometimes you need to step out of your everyday environment to get a fresh perspective. Observing other teams, watching their emotional behavior, and seeing how their leaders react can provide you new insights to your own team and approach. You can take the strategies that impressed you back to your team and note alternative ways for addressing various situations. You may also want to ask another leader who you respect to observe your team and provide feedback to you. Many times we're too close to the situation to recognize how our team interacts with us. Having an outside observer can shed new light onto how your behavior affects your team's attitudes and actions. Whichever approach you choose, widening your perspective can help you identify better ways to connect with your team. Check your bias. We all have bias, our preferences and beliefs on how the world should work. Some we are aware of, and others linger in our subconscious. Bias guides our thoughts and actions. The more you can identify what's guiding you, the more you can be open to recognize when one of those biases might be the cause of distress to your team. There are lots of free resources on the internet, including scientific quizzes that help you identify your areas of bias. You may be incredibly surprised by some of the results. I know I was. There are many ways that we have been conditioned to think and behave that we do automatically. Until someone points out that there might be an alternative way, we have possibly never considered. Checking your bias allows you to explore new possibilities for thinking and behavior patterns. So, did you take notes? Which of these strategies do you already have in place? Which ones do you need to develop more? Take some time to think through your level of empathy and if you are cultivating a team that demonstrates empathy. Consider asking your team which of these strategies you might need to strengthen. It's a great way to open the door to discussing empathy with your team. Putting it all together. While empathy is the buzzword getting all the attention right now, sympathy, empathy, and compassion are all needed in leadership. Different situations call for different responses, and knowing which ones will be best to meet the needs of your team is a critical skill for leaders. Not every situation and not every person will be the same, so leaders must remain flexible. But the first step is always to have the pulse on the emotions of those you work with. You must nurture your team. Great teams have a strong emotional IQ and exhibit empathy for their fellow team members. Leaders are responsible for setting the example for the team and showing what behaviors they want the team to take. You must lead from a place of awareness and understanding, and when needed, a place of action. Great leaders have the emotional IQ to know which response is needed when. Your choice. What will be the first action step you take towards building your empathy? Look back over the 4 key elements: getting involved, open communication, widening your perspective, and checking your bias. Which of these do you already live? Now, what about the ones that are a growth area for you? Pick one to focus on. What can you do to start making that skill a positive habit? Did you jot down notes on what that skill entails? If not, you may want to go back and rewatch that part of this training. If you want to improve a specific skill, you must consciously and consistently be practicing the actions that demonstrate that skill. Is there a specific situation going on right now that needs an emotional response of empathy? What are the specific strategies you need to take to address that situation? Write down those actions on your worksheet. Practice is what will develop the skill into a habit. Master each of these skills one at a time until empathy becomes part of your leadership DNA. Small steps will lead to big changes. Become a leader with empathy, one small step at a time. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to let me guide you through this training. I hope you found it useful, and I really hope that you stick to your plan and start taking small steps to build your empathy.